The San Francisco 49ers have made a lot of changes over the course of this offseason. So now the biggest question, can a team that went 6-11 in 2024 bounce back in the 2025-2026 season, and are they still Super Bowl contenders? Now, in my opinion, they are. I'm going to tell you why in this video. And it starts with Brock Purdy. I know that Brock Purdy is a very controversial player. Some people, they look at Brock Purdy and they say he's a system quarterback. He walked into a great situation. But we've seen this team go out there with other quarterbacks, such as Jimmy Garoppolo, the same with Trey Lance. I can't stress this enough. Brock Purdy saved the jobs of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They traded so much draft capital to move up and to select Trey Lance. And Mr. Irrelevant came in his first year. They went to the NFC Championship game. They went undefeated with Brock Purdy. In year number 2, this man was so great in the offseason and training camp. They traded Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys. Trey Lance is a bust. But in year 2, with a full season underneath his belt, full training camp, gets full reps here. Because let's realize something. When he was brought in as a rookie, he didn't get first team reps. He didn't get second team reps. That went to Jimmy Garoppolo and that went to Trey Lance. They still had a team that was centered around those two players, more so Trey Lance than Jimmy Garoppolo. But in his second year, they go to the Super Bowl over Kansas City. They did lose against Kansas City, but Brock Purdy was not the main reason to why they lost that matchup. Kyle Shanahan was. They went out there in overtime. They said, we'll receive the football here. They kicked a field goal. So now the Chiefs know all we have to do is go down there and score a touchdown. They did not know the rules. That goes down to Kyle Shanahan and the rest of the coaches with this organization. Could Brock Purdy went out there and played better? Sure. But he made big time throw after big time throw to George Kittle, and the same with Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel was a non-factor in that Super Bowl. And the writing was on the wall with Deebo Samuel long term. More on that in a second. But Brock Purdy has been an elite quarterback. Just because he's not 6'5" or 6'6" and he's not 250 pounds and he can't make video game throws all over the field doesn't mean that he's not an elite quarterback. Brock Purdy came in. He operates his system at the highest level. Better than Jimmy Garoppolo, better than Trey Lance, better than Brian Hoyer. You can make the case right now that this is the best quarterback that Brock Purdy is the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan has coached in his career. I know that he got the coach RG3 in his rookie season. He didn't last long. RG3 was dealing with major injuries. Brock Purdy has dealt with injuries, but it hasn't been major injuries. Sure, he hurt the UCL in his elbow his rookie season. Dating back to last year, 2024, he dealt with injuries, but the offensive line was terrible. Is he this perfect quarterback? No, but no one's the perfect quarterback. We've seen Patrick Mahomes have bad games. The same with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. But when I look at Brock Purdy, he deserves a contract extension that he got. And I was advocating for this a couple of months ago. $53 million a year, that's worth it. Because Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they both know without him being on this roster, they may have been with a different team or they may not be in the NFL right now. And I'm not overreacting when I say that. But when I look at Brock Purdy in this contract extension, $53 million a year is not a lot of money. When you look at Dak Prescott making $60 million a year, we've seen other quarterbacks make $55 million a year, and Brock Purdy has accomplished more than some of those quarterbacks. It's a flexible contract. And when you look at the details over the next 5 years, after year 3, they can move off of Brock Purdy. Now, you may say, why would he go out there? Why would he sign this contract? It makes sense for both sides. He gets a lot of money up front. He was the last pick in the NFL draft. He wasn't getting paid that much. He can re-up after year number 3. They can give him another major contract extension. And if it doesn't work out after year number 3, they can move off of Brock Purdy. But when I go back and I look at what he did last season, even with injuries to the offensive line, injuries to the wide receiving room, he still performed very well. And he did not have his best offensive player for majority of the season in the backfield in Christian McCaffrey. He's more consistent than Kyler Murray. He's done more in his career than Kyler Murray. I look at Sam Darnold. I love Sam Darnold. But he has only had one great year with the Vikings. Can he turn that over with the Seahawks? We'll see. And the Rams right now, I will give them their respect. Matthew Stafford is phenomenal. They have a well-oiled machine over there in Los Angeles. But this division may come down to those two teams. And the same with the Seahawks. Give them respect. The Arizona Cardinals, very good football team. But I look at Kyler Murray. Can he be consistent enough to help them get over the top? I don't believe so. Brock Purdy has been here before. NFC Championship game, Super Bowl appearance. Kyle Shanahan has been to 2 Super Bowls as a head coach. He helped them go to the Super Bowl when he was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. So if you want to count that, that's 3 Super Bowls for Kyle Shanahan. And he's still one of the best head coaches that you can have. Now, look at the rest of the roster here. They have a strong depth chart. Trent Williams is still holding things down at the left tackle position. And my prayers are with Trent Williams and his family. He lost his kid. And it was a similar situation to Charvarius Ward. So he went out there and he soldiered on. He played through it, but he was dealing with injuries last season. I am concerned about this offensive line long term. Trent Williams is still one of the best offensive tackles in the game. But he's 36 years old. Eventually, you need to go out there and draft his replacement or get him in free agency. They haven't done that just yet. You have Colton at the right tackle position. He's not a terrible tackle, only allowed 2 sacks last season, but he will allow a lot of pressures against stronger defensive ends. But he's a very good right tackle in certain weeks. Dominic Purdy, phenomenal season last season for him, and he's only going to go out there and continue to get better over the next few years. He's a very good right guard. He's 25 years old. So you have 3 very good offensive linemen. That's what you need to help out Brock Purdy. But they really did not go out there and address the offensive line position till late in the NFL draft. I wanted them to do this in the first and the second round, and we'll talk about their draft in the next couple minutes here. But this offensive line, it does concern me from a pass protecting standpoint. Brock Purdy hasn't had all day inside the pocket his rookie season, his sophomore season. That's why I really hate the argument. He walked into a great situation. With weapons on the perimeter, yes, he did. With weapons up front, no, he did. And he's a smaller quarterback. Now, he's not 5'8" or 5'9". He can still go out there and see certain levels of the field that a guy like Kyler Murray may not be able to. And the same with other quarterbacks that are undersized, like a Bryce Young. But we've heard Brock Purdy say this. Even if you are 6'3", 6'5", you're going to have problems seeing down the field majority of the time. That's why the accuracy and the anticipation is the strongest part of his game. He reminds me a lot of Drew Brees in that standpoint, to where he just throws where he knows the coverage is not going to be as strong as that, and he gives his wide receiver a chance. Now, as far as the weapons in the backfield, Christian McCaffrey is phenomenal. He missed majority of last season, Achilles tendonitis. He was able to start at the beginning of the season. They rushed him back into the lineup. This man has over 20 carries against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the problem that I have with Kyle Shanahan. Big Kyle Shanahan fan here. He's running Christian McCaffrey into the ground. McCaffrey is a great player, one of the best players in football. I think it's time to lessen up their workload a little bit. This is one of the best rushing systems in all of football. And he learned that from Mike Shanahan, his dad. We've seen Jordan Mason go out there and have very good football games. The same with Isaac Guerendo. Give Isaac Guerendo more carries. Let him go out there and work in between the tackles in short yardage situations. Take some of that pressure off of Christian McCaffrey. They don't need C-Mac to go out there every single week and have 25 to 30 touches in a game. Let him get 15 to 20 touches. Use him as a special running back in goal line situations. And that's another problem that I saw with Kyle Shanahan last year. Their goal line offense was terrible. Their red zone offense in general was just horrible compared to the other years when McCaffrey was fully healthy. And I know why he always wants him on the field. McCaffrey is more than just a running back. A couple of years ago with the Carolina Panthers, he had 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving. He's a generational player. But you have to find ways to go out there and adjust without him. He should not be on the field every single play. And when I look at Isaac Guerendo, he can handle 10 to 15 carries a game. The man averaged 5 yards a carry last season on 84 carries. 420 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. And I'm not saying that Isaac Guerendo will be a top 5 running back in football. But the system that he's in right now, any running back can go out there and give you very good production. And it's not to go out there and discredit him as a player. He's phenomenal. The same with Christian McCaffrey. But split the workload with both of these running backs. And if it's a close game, if you really need the win, then you bring in Christian McCaffrey. Then you overload the defense. You overstimulate them with so many different looks and so many different opportunities in terms of giving Christian McCaffrey the football out of the backfield. Motion him out. And you still have Kyle Juszczyk at the fullback position. That's my one critique with Kyle Shanahan. The offense took a major step back without Christian McCaffrey. And usually that's going to happen when you miss your best player on the offensive end. Depends on how you look at Christian McCaffrey. You may say one of the better players. But as a coach, you have to go out there and put your team in the right situations every single week. And he did not do that last year with Brock Purdy. And yet Brock Purdy was still a strong quarterback in red zone situations. And it was more than just Christian McCaffrey that missed time last year. And with him coming back, he's going to help them win a lot of football games moving forward. Remember, their offense took a major leap by 10 points when they made that trade to bring him in from the Carolina Panthers. You have Brandon Ayuk, you have Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. They let Deebo Samuel go. As soon as they made that draft pick with Ricky Pearsall in the first round, the writing was on the wall. Deebo Samuel already had a contract extension. Brandon Ayuk, he won the contract extension. You couldn't keep both of these players, and it didn't make sense. Brandon Ayuk is a better wide receiver in terms of being a route runner and in terms of being a number one guy. Deebo Samuel is a gimmicky wide receiver. Not to say that he's a bad player. I'm not the biggest fan of Deebo Samuel. You may say I'm a Deebo Samuel hater. You may be correct. I look at Deebo Samuel, he has good moments, but he has also had a lot of terrible moments over the last 2 years of his career. He's only had one truly great season. I look at him as a slot wide receiver. When you line him up on the outside, he will get jammed up. Against the Chiefs, they did a phenomenal job. Let's press up Deebo Samuel. Let's make him a non-factor. You can't do that against Brandon Ayuk. He can take the top off the defense. He's amazing in the immediate routes. And I hate that he got injured last year against Kansas City in the regular season. He tore his knee up. Now he's scheduled to come back by week 1. I expect for him to make a major impact. He missed time last year in training camp. That should not be the case this year. They gave you a major contract extension. You're the best wide receiver in this room. When he has his head on right and when he's not going out there and he's like planning for a contract similar to Nick Bosa many years ago, he's one of the best receivers in the game. He can easily go out there and have 1,200 to 1,400 receiving yards in a year. And he had some major drops last season. Especially against the New York Jets, he dropped 2 passing touchdowns. He only had 374 receiving yards, but as soon as he got into the groove, that's when he gets injured. So you're bringing him back off the injury report. Ricky Pearsall missed majority of his rookie season last year, but there's a lot of upside here. It's the reason why they selected him in the first round. 400 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. If you like Deebo Samuel, you're really going to love Ricky Pearsall. He's an amazing route runner, and he can go deep down the field. He's that Kyle Shanahan type of wide receiver. And I feel for him. He was already dealing with shoulder injuries coming out of college, so he's going to miss some time. He gets robbed by this punk kid that shoots him in his chest. Now, Ricky Pearsall went out there and he said that he forgave this kid. He shoots him in his chest. Thankfully, it did not strike his heart. And obviously, he's going to be okay long term. But that's a major comeback story for him. And as the season progressed, he became better and better. You give him a full training camp to where he doesn't have to rehab that shoulder. You let him go out there. He doesn't have to worry about getting robbed, worry about rehabbing from a gunshot wound to the chest. I think Ricky Pearsall can be a very good number 2. He could be a very good high-end number 1 coming towards the end of his sophomore year. Don't forget about him. And Juwan Jennings would have had over 1,000 receiving yards last year if he did not get kicked out of a football game. So the wide receiving core is strong with Deebo Samuel and is stronger without Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel will be solid for the Commanders, but with the 49ers, it's time for some of these younger players to step up like Ricky Pearsall. At the tight end position, I really like George Kittle. He's one of the best receiving tight ends in the NFL. The same way I look at Christian McCaffrey, one of the most talented players you can have at the running back position, that's how I look at George Kittle. Phenomenal blocker, phenomenal receiving tight end, great hands. You can run your offense through George Kittle. Most weeks, he could be your number 1 offensive player. You can run this receiving room through him. A generational tight end. And let's not forget that you also have Demarcus Robinson in that receiving room coming over from the Los Angeles Rams. 505 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns. A very good number 3, very good number 4 wide receiver. The only problems that I have with this offense would be the usage with Christian McCaffrey. Can he stay fully healthy? And this offensive line, because they can be very inconsistent, especially without Big Trent at the left tackle position. But I love them re-signing Brock Purdy, and it gets you right back into the fold immediately. Far as his defense, they have dealt with defensive problems a lot since DeMeco Ryans left. DeMeco Ryans was a great defensive coordinator, but you guys know how this story goes. Whenever you have a great offensive coordinator, a great defensive coordinator, hell, even if you have a great special teams coordinator, more times than not, they're not going to stick around for a very long time. Now, before they hired DeMeco Ryans to be their DC, they had Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh went to the New York Jets. Unfortunately, it never worked out with the offense. They selected Zach Wilson, had Aaron Rodgers. They pushed him out the door. After D'Amico Ryans, you brought in Steve Wilks, which was a very weird fit. Steve Wilks is not a bad defensive coordinator, but what Kyle Shanahan loves is a bunch of pressure. Not a coach is going to go out there and coach through the secondary. That's what Steve Wilks did. And they kind of threw Steve Wilks underneath the bus. They fired him after their Super Bowl loss against Kansas City. I'm not saying that he was great in that matchup. They couldn't bring down Patrick Mahomes, but he was not the main reason to why you lost that game. I look at Kyle Shanahan and say, okay, you should have deferred early on. Or you should have went out there and you should have been aggressive towards the end of the game in overtime. You should have went out there and just went for it and scored that touchdown. Should have never gave Kansas City another opportunity to go out there and get the football back and let them know what you needed at that head of time. But you fire Steve Wilks. You bring in Coach Sorensen. Coach Sorensen was a worse DC than Steve Wilks, but he wasn't terrible. But the run discipline wasn't the same. They could not get the pressures up front. So now you're bringing back Robert Saleh, one of the best defensive coordinators in 49ers history. This man helped the 49ers have a top passing defense, helped them have a top rushing defense in terms of pressure as well. They went heavy with defense in the NFL draft. I really wish they would have won the offensive lineman in the first round, but they went with Mikael Williams, edge rusher from Georgia, 14 sacks in 3 years. He can get to the quarterback at a consistent rate playing alongside an alpha player, and that's going to be Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is still one of the best pass rushers in all of football. You bring in Mikael Williams. He can consistently get to the passer, but that's not going to be his role on a consistent basis with the 49ers. They want him to come in, set the edge, stop the run. When you look at his production at Georgia, it's similar to Trayvon Walker. You may fall in love with sacks. It doesn't always come down to that sack number. Can you generate a lot of pressure? Can you set the edge and stop the run? That's what Mikael Williams can do. It may take him some time to pop off the radar and be a sack monster, and that's okay. You have Gross Matos, who's playing behind him, and you draft a very good defensive tackle that can get to the quarterback on a consistent basis, and he can also stop the run. But Mikael Williams, that big frame that he has and that speed, they need him in this division, especially against the Rams. And Sean McVay is close friends with Kyle Shanahan. They run an eerily similar system in terms of running production. You have him to worry about in his coaching. You have James Conner, the big running back with the Cardinals. He's a power back. Drew Petzing is not the best offensive coordinator, but the one thing that he can do, he can run the football at will. You need a defensive end that can come in and stop the run. That's what he's going to do for you. The Seattle Seahawks, Kenneth Walker III, Zach Charbonnet, and Kyron Williams with the Rams. Every team in this division, including the 49ers, they love to run the football from sideline to sideline. You need defensive ends that can set the edge. So bringing this kid in the first round is a great pick. Even though I wanted them to go with offensive line here, you know what? You go all in on your defense with your brand new defensive coordinator who has been here before in Robert Saleh, you will be fine. Let him go out there, let him stop the run on a consistent basis. Second round pick, Alfred Collins, big defensive tackle from Texas. When you look at his numbers, he only allowed 2.9 rushing yards a carry when he was on the field at Texas. When they went to the college football playoffs, he was even better. He can get to the quarterback on a consistent basis, but once again, he's going to come in, stop the run, then get to the quarterback. When I look at the packages with Robert Saleh, he loves to have versatile defensive linemen. They can come in first and second down. Some guys may come in. They may only get to the quarterback. Those are third down pass rushers. You run a NASCAR situation. So if it's third and long, they'll send the dogs at you. But in those tight formations, when it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3, you want to go out there and run the football. You're going to have Alfred Collins, Mikael Williams, Nick Bosa. And let's not forget about Jordan Elliott. They can all stop the run on a consistent basis. And it's similar to a defense they had many years ago when Coach Saleh first became the defensive coordinator. I look at the linebacking room. You no longer have Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw missed a lot of time with the 49ers. Towards Achilles against Kansas City in that Super Bowl. Wasn't the same player. He came right back on the field. He got dinged up once again. They had to deal with a lame player that came over from the Green Bay Packers and Devondre Campbell. The reason why I call him lame, he didn't even want to check back into the game. He knew what Dre Greenlaw meant to this defense. When you play in the NFL, it's a brotherhood. And I never call NFL players soft. But that was a soft-ass move that he made. He didn't want to go back into the game. So Kyle Shanahan said, man, you know what? Just leave. So he walked off the field. No one has went out and they haven't signed him. And I hope it stays that way. He put this team in a bad situation. Sure, you have linebackers step up, next man ready. That's the message in the NFL. But when you have key veterans like Fred Warner and George Kittle calling you out with how upset they are with you because you didn't want to check back into the game, that says a lot about you and your character. And he did the 49ers a favor here. He was a terrible linebacker with Green Bay, and he was a terrible linebacker with the 49ers. He could barely tackle. He could not track down the running backs. Overall, just a terrible linebacker, and I hope that he never steps foot in the NFL ever again. That would have been a nasty situation with the 49ers if they did not have other linebackers to step up. You're compromising your entire team, but he only cared about himself. Why am I talking about Devondre Campbell here? For the simple fact that Dre Greenlaw is no longer here, and neither is Devondre Campbell for two different reasons. Dre Greenlaw is now with the Broncos. You selected Nick Martin, very good linebacker out of Oklahoma State. He missed 7 games last season for Oklahoma State. He was dealing with an MCL injury, but he performed very well at the combine. If you're concerned about him and his injuries, don't be. In 2023, this man had 6 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions, 83 solo tackles, 140 total tackles. In 2024, even though he missed 7 games, 47 solo tackles, 2 pass deflections, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble. He's basically Dre Greenlaw 2.0. But he can cover running backs out of the backfield. He can cover tight ends. He's a very good coverage linebacker. He's a do-it-all linebacker. The only reason why he slid in this draft is because of his medical. It wasn't a major MCL injury, and the fact he didn't have to have surgery, this is going to go down as a steal for the 49ers. So losing Dre Greenlaw, it does suck, but he missed majority of last season anyway. So I look at Nick Martin, have him play alongside Fred Warner, one of the best middle linebackers in the game. You're going to be fine. As far as your secondary, Travarius Ward, my prayers go out to him. He lost his kid as well. Similar situations to Trent Williams. So he missed time. He stepped away from the team. He loved the 49ers organization. But he just didn't want to come back to California because the PTSD would have lost his kid. I fully understand it. He's now with the Indianapolis Colts, and I wish him nothing but the best. Unlike Devondre Campbell, he went out there and he played through a lot of things on the field. But they're gearing up for him leaving eventually. He's an all-pro corner for a reason. You have Lenore, very good cornerback. You have Renardo Green. He's a very good corner. And you have Jair Brown at the strong safety position. And you drafted Malik. Malik, I think him coming out of Texas, he's going to be a very good player. The reason why I bring up those safeties, you no longer have Hufanga. Hufanga is similar to Devondre Campbell. It's similar to Dre Greenlaw, not Devondre Campbell, in terms of not being able to stay healthy. Towards ACL a few years back, hasn't had the same burst on the field, hasn't been able to go out there and just be consistent on the field. They may work out for the Broncos, but with the 49ers, they just couldn't stay healthy. And I look at the nickel cornerback position. You did a great job of going out there and drafting Upton, who's a very good nickel cornerback. I think that he could come in from Western Kentucky and he can give you very good production immediately, especially in this system with Robert Saleh. It comes down to the coaching staff with the 49ers, with their defense. It's a bunch of awkward fits right now on paper, but they were in a similar situation many years ago with Robert Saleh. But I think highly of Brock Purdy. I think that he can get this team back to the NFL playoffs and they can make some noise. When I look at the top tier teams in the NFC, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, of course. Give them respect. The Green Bay Packers, they're up there. The Los Angeles Rams, and then I'll slide in the 49ers. You can say the 49ers are a better team than the Packers right now. And I know me saying this coming off a 6-11 season is crazy. But let's not forget what the 49ers were able to do before they had this 6-11 season. They went out there and they balled out on a consistent basis. Before they went 6-11, 12-5, 13-4, 10-7, the last time they had a losing season was in 2020. And oddly enough, they only won 6 games. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the San Francisco 49ers, and do you still view them as a Super Bowl contender in the NFC? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.